there's a small part of me that has to admit, and maybe a bigger part of me than I'd like to admit right now, that kind of wishes Stephen Hauschka would have missed the extra point on the Devin Singletary touchdown late in the fourth quarter last week against the Redskins, because if you remember, if you watched, I appreciate you, I picked the Bills to win 23-9, and the final score ends up being 24-9. So for one split second, I had 23-9 on the scoreboard, and I thought, wow, I could nail this if he misses this extra point. And I've never nailed it before. This is my 11th or 12th year of doing this, and I've never nailed the score before, which I guess I shouldn't be too surprised by. It's a pretty difficult thing to do. This is obviously as close as you can get, getting one score completely right, being off by 1 point on the other. I think I've only done that like one time before. I don't know why a Giants game a couple of years ago just sticks out in my mind. I feel like I might have done it. Didn't go back and do the research on that. Anyway, I digress. The Bills beat the Redskins 24-9. They moved to 6-2 overall on the season. I felt like, and maybe you share this feeling with me, the Bills were really never truly threatened by the Redskins and Dwayne Haskins and Bill Callahan. Like, I talked last week about how Bill Callahan just kind of wants to run the football, just this really old school smash mouth style of football. And you got that from Adrian Peterson, who had 99 yards in the first half, but only finished with 108. You know, and a lot of fans are making fun of the run defense, sort of like, oh, this is like hysterical, this is laughably bad. Adrian Peterson is 33 or 34 years old, however old he is, and he's just steamrolling us. And granted, you don't really want to see all of these long runs, but like, let me just break it down for you a little bit. Adrian Peterson, as I said, had 99 yards rushing in the first half. The Bills were leading 17-6. Adrian Peterson had 71 of his 99 first half rushing yards after the drive that made it 10-3. So Adrian Peterson already has 71 yards rushing. The Bills are leading 10-3. He has 71 yards rushing. They have 3 points. So, like, there's a reasonable strategy there. And I'm not saying the Bills did this on purpose, but it's certainly something to think about. Just let them run the ball. Let them run the clock out on you. They don't have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers or Phillip Rivers or Tom Brady or whoever, you know, or Drew Brees or whatever, that can really is really a threat to throw touchdowns on you. The guy is making his first career start. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet. So if they want to throw the ball, like, let them throw the ball. They're probably not going to beat you throwing the ball. So the opposite of that, you know that there's this old school smash mouth style of coach in Bill Callahan. Let him run the ball. You don't want to let him run it successfully all the time, obviously, but they run the clock out on themselves. And they sort of did it. The game flew by. I mean, the game was over by 3:45. It was like, the time of the game was like 2 hours and 40 minutes, which is, you know, so fast by today's NFL standards with commercials and replay and whatnot. So, you know, it differs last week from the Eagles game, because the Eagles were already up when most of those rushing yards took place. The Redskins are trying to beat you flat out running the football. So, and they ended up actually passing the ball more than they ran the ball or something. I think it was pretty even, like 23-22 or something like that. Not that it really even matters. They end up with 127 rushing yards, and Adrian Peterson had 99 in the first half. He had 108 himself, 99 in the first half. So he had like something like 8 or 9 carries for 9 yards in the second half. So obviously I'm happy to see that they shored that up in the second half. But I mean, they were leading at 17-6 at the break. Like, they were never really threatened by this team. They just wanted to run the ball. And like I said, just let them run the clock on themselves. You obviously don't want to see long runs and, you know, first downs, which they only had 12, by the way. The Redskins only had 12 first downs. But, like I said, they run the clock on themselves. How many times you see a 16-yard run? Granted, you don't want to see them that frequently. This is the best way that it's been put to me, so I'm just going to tell it to you guys. You don't want to see a 16-yard run that frequently, but like, how many times do you see it? Not that often. Most guys carry the ball for about 4 yards per carry. 4 or 5 if they're really good. 5 if they're really good. And it takes 40 seconds off the clock. Like, how many times do you see a 16-yard pass? Almost every time, it seems like. There's plenty of guys in the league that average, you know, 12 to 14 yards a catch, sometimes 16. Like Terry McLaurin came in averaging like 15 yards a catch. He gets held to 4 for 39 because they're just not that good throwing the football. So let them run the ball and be non-threatening, entirely non-threatening, and just be good enough to get out of there with the win. The Bills didn't punt in the first half. I think they only had 3 possessions. Like I said, the game went by so fast. They had 3 possessions, they had 17 points. You can't do a whole lot better than that. And they're up 17-6. Granted, I would have liked to see them score a little bit quicker in the second half, not, have the Redskins driving for the potential tie at 17-9. But they get the ball back with like 6 minutes left. They run off 4 minutes and score a touchdown, salt the thing away. Now, a lot of people are making a big deal about, not just locally, but like nationally, like the schedule and whatnot. And obviously, we've talked about that. The schedule is what it is. You play who you play. It's nothing you can do about it. They don't look back. There's no bowl. There's no BCS. There's whatever. It's just you get in because of your record. So you don't have to apologize for that. You play who you play. The Patriots are playing 14 of the same 16 teams. So like nobody's really getting on them. And I know earlier in the year I talked about that as like you don't want to judge the Patriots, who have really won 6 Super Bowls based on who they're playing. But I think the Bills maybe sort of deserve some of that credit. It feels like they're getting better, or maybe, I don't know if you want to say they're getting better. They're like learning. They're learning things about themselves, about Josh Allen, about Devin Singletary, who had 140 total yards. Obviously love to see that. About their defense, about their receivers, how they can use Brown and Beasley and Tyler Kroft or whatever. Like, he only had like 1 target, but like they're learning different nuances as they're winning. So they're 6-2. They probably still really haven't hit their stride yet. I know that it's, the weather's getting bad and whatnot. I hate bringing that up. I can't believe I just brought that up. I hate myself for bringing that up, like, because you have to play the game a little bit differently when it's windy. Like, you don't necessarily have to, but they have home games. The Baltimore, they're going to be at Pittsburgh, at Cleveland this week, at New England. They're going to be outside in the winter, which I've gone way too far about the weather, way too far. So, basically what I'm trying to get across to you is that I have reason to believe that this offense can get better because this is the first time they've really featured Devin Singletary. What do I have concerns about? Like, I guess Allen fumbling still. He hasn't thrown too many interceptions lately. He's been smarter with the football. 14 of 20 for just 160 this past week, and 49 of those was a dump off to Singletary that he took for 49, like I said. I'm gonna say that that's game plan based because the Bills didn't really feel threatened by Washington in any regard, and I don't blame them for feeling that way. It's a 1-7 team coming in. They're showing you that they really just want to run the football and get out of here. So just let them. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'd love to see them throwing the ball more. I still love John Brown. My God, put him on the Wall of Fame, and I'm being slightly serious. He had 76 of Josh Allen's 160 passing yards. Had a big drop late on the final drive that Singletary ended up scoring on. Made up for it with a 3rd and 18 conversion for 23 yards. Like, I love this guy. Way more than a stretch the field, go route type of player. 4 catches on 7 targets for 76 yards. Is on pace, halfway through the year for about 1,200 yards receiving. Be the first Bills receiver to do that since Lee Evans. So that's exciting. I still like the way they kind of use Isaiah McKenzie. I know one of those little push passes or whatever you want to call them, the shovel type of whatever plays, didn't really work out. Maybe somebody missed their block there. But I like how they use that. It just works with him. It's kind of strange to me. Foster, I really have no idea what to make of. He gets 1 target a game on 7 snaps. He's just been bumped down the depth chart, honestly, just by Brown and Beasley. I like the tight end sets they have with Kroft and Knox, and I think they can maybe get a little bit more out of that position, and maybe they will. The short yardage thing is weird to me. I was going to bring that up with Gore. Like, why can't they gain a yard? And a part of that, before I move on to the Browns, stop bundling everybody together. Like, why does it take this long to figure this out? You're just putting 11 guys just mashing heads. 22 guys. 11 guys on your team, 11 guys on their team, except the quarterback. So 21 guys just mashing heads in the same area of the field. Just spread people out a little bit. Or maybe bunch up to start, and then spread them out, and then just send them all out, whatever. Do something. Just something different. Like, it's really frustrating. The Bills had trouble with Gore gaining a yard. 3 times on the same play on the 1 yard line. He had a 3rd and 1 later in the game that he lost like 3 yards on. Just gain a yard. And there's no rule about lining up on like 3rd and 1 or on the goal line. There's none. The Bills act like, I mean, on the 1 you can only gain 1 yard, but like 3rd and 1, they act like you can only gain 1 yard. Like it's only allowed to gain the first down. Like we have to get this. We can only gain 1 to 2 yards here, guys. Like no, just do whatever you want. Whatever. Okay. That would be my primary complaint from Sunday. Really, what can you complain about? They're 6-2. They won 24-9 in 2.5 hours, basically. So that brings up Cleveland, and Cleveland obviously not going as planned. 2-6. They've lost 4 games in a row. They're 0-3 at home. They lost to Denver. Like they had the ball for like 35 minutes. They didn't turn the ball over. They had 351 yards. How did they lose? I really don't understand how they lose. And I did watch some of the game, and I'm just thinking they're gaining yards. They went like 3 and out a couple times, but they scored on the rest of their drives. Then they went and turned the ball over on downs late. So like it's just lack of execution in like the most important spots. And a lot of Browns fans are really riding Freddie Kitchens, and I think that might be deserved. I think that Freddie Kitchens was hired to be the head coach because they wanted that sort of continuity. They wanted to keep Freddie Kitchens as the OC, and they really couldn't figure out a way to do that by hiring somebody else. So they were like, well, we're going to make you the head coach, Freddie. And the job is a lot more than he maybe anticipated. He just seems way in over his head. He's trying to call the plays. He's trying to manage, obviously, the entire team, and nothing is really going according to plan. They are 25th in scoring offense, 23rd in scoring defense, 19th in yardage on offense, 18th on defense. Like just a very, very average to below average team. The best rank they have is is they're 6th in passing defense, but they're 30th against the run. So there's that. They are just like hilariously turning the ball over. Granted, they didn't do it last week. They had 11 turnovers in their previous 3 losses to San Francisco, Seattle, and New England. Granted, those are pretty good teams. But, you get Denver whether you're on the road or not, with Brandon Allen, who has never played a game before, and he's laying touchdowns in there to Cortland Sutton. Phillip Lindsay's running all over you. And I don't understand. They only really allowed 300 yards. And 13 first downs. They did force a turnover. You look at the numbers, and it's like, how did you lose? And that's kind of what I alluded to earlier. Like, how did they lose that game? And I don't know what to tell you. The Browns are going to Brown. Like, they beat Lamar Jackson on the road earlier this year, 40-25. Kind of a conundrum there. I don't really understand how to explain that. They had 500 yards of offense. They forced 3 turnovers. They did a good job. But the only other team they've beaten is the Trevor Siemian and Luke Falk Jets. That's it. Odell Beckham is like 100th on the receiving touchdowns list. He tied with Jarvis Landry. Him and Jarvis Landry have essentially the same numbers. Like, here they go. They both have 67 targets. They both have... Jarvis has 555 yards. Odell has 575. Odell has 3 more receptions than Jarvis. They both have 1 receiving touchdown. They both even have 10 yards rushing. Like, they have almost identical numbers, and they're really not helping. On defense, the Browns have Myles Garrett, obviously, but who has 10 sacks. But 5 of those came in the first 3 games of the year. So in the last 5 games, he has 5 sacks. I believe I might even have. I should know that off the top of my head. I'm going to look it up, despite them getting towards the end of the video. He had 6 sacks in the first 3 games of the year. So he only has 4 sacks in the last 5 games. So, I'm not saying teams that he's not a threat. He obviously is a threat. But the guy who's playing 100% of the snaps, Jermaine Whitehead, is trying to fight people on Twitter and getting released. I've obviously just had to throw that in there. There's just disarray. And granted, I thought that was how the Eagles were too. And the Bills are 3-0 on the road. The Browns are 0-3 at home. Something's got to give. I don't know why, guys. I just kind of have a bit of a bad feeling about this. So I'm going to pick the Browns to beat the Bills like 23-20. How about that? Guys, hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle and YouTube username are the same. We'll talk, we'll chat in the comments and whatnot. Enjoy your weekend. As always, above all else, go Bills.